Felicitations, adventurers! Welcome to Over the Table. I'm Taylor Felicity. I've scoured the internet, but mostly Reddit, for stories about TTRPGs for us to provide our unsolicited opinions, advice, and commentary. And today I'm here with Dreamy and Freestar. This is our first episode. I'm kind of video podcast vibes. I don't know if I'm going to release this as an audio podcast, but it'll definitely be on YouTube later. But I'm going to throw it over to my guests to introduce themselves. And we're going to start with Dreamy's little custom entrance happening. We're going to, yeah, you know what? Let's start with Dreamy, since that just came up.
Ooh, okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Dreamy. I'm a VTuber. I play a lot of Final Fantasy XIV, some variety content. I've been on a lot of tabletop RPG streams that Taylor has hosted, and I'm also in a long-term game with my co-host over here, Captain Freestar.
Yeah. All right.
Tisha, you can introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Tisha, also known as Captain Freestar. I'm a variety streamer and VTuber. I do a lot of mix between horror, RPG, and art streams. I made and rigged my own model. I played a couple of games at Taylor's Table, and then I also play a lot of games over at CXP that are more like D&D homebrew games, one of which is with Dreamy.
Yeah, and tell me more about, for people in chat who may not be familiar with the game that you two play in together. Tell me more about that. Tell us about what your game is like, your characters, that kind of thing.
So it is a D&D base, but it is very heavily homebrewed. It's based off of the Fate series, but kind of loose enough that people who aren't super familiar with it could still follow along.
That's me.
Yeah. I mean, knowing nothing about Fate.
I literally don't know a single thing about it, and I'm just like, YOLO.
But it's still a lot of fun. We're with another whole group of VTubers as we play kind of our VTuber personas in this campaign as magical girls with servants fighting in the Holy Grail War. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've tuned into some of the streams of it, and it's really good. You all are a very fun group. Also, both of you are just so fun to talk to. So when I had the idea of doing this stream, I was like, well, I definitely want to have you two on to talk about these stories. Because one of my favorite things is I watch, Smosh does a Reddit stories thing that I watch all the time. There's a podcast I listen to called The Judgies that's Reddit stories podcast. So it's one of my favorite things to do is just listen to wild stuff that's going on in other people's lives. There is another podcast I think that also does TTRPG stuff like this. I actually don't know what that's called, but they come up on my For You page on TikTok all the time. And then also NADPod does what they call Dungeon Court, which is email submissions that they do advice and stuff like that. So I'm heavily cribbing from multiple other people when I have this idea. But that's what the internet is, right? You just kind of are I want to do that too. Also, Dreamy, you also do a Reddit stories collab with another streamer. Do you want to talk about that?
Okay. Yeah, I will. Okay, so usually I'll have one guest streamer, and we'll both choose Reddit stories that neither of us have that the other person hasn't read yet, right? And we'll share them with each other on stream and react, and it's called Story Swap Sleepover. So it's kind of very much sleepover vibes, where we tell each other stories. And someone in my chat once said that literally every single story that I share, the person is always they should be in jail.
They're not just the asshole, they need to go to jail.
Yeah, how come every single story that you share, why is it always the person should be in jail? And I was is that the case? And I was I guess they are really horrible most of the time, so I guess they should be in jail.
There are so many stories online where you read it and you're this person should probably be in jail. Or maybe soon will be.
I'm gonna say this, and this might be controversial, but some of these people should just be killed.
my
Okay,
gosh.
so this is the reason why I wanted to have you on, Dreamy, because we famously were in a book club together, and the first book that we read, like, the start of the book club, you said, I hope all these characters die.
Some people just need to be killed. I'm sorry.
So
Bring
we'll
back
see.
the gallows. I want to tomato someone and then chop their head off.
The guillotine, let's go.
You know?
So I'm excited to see what your reactions to some of these stories are. And also, Dreamy, you have a story for us, which I'll prompt you whenever.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, whenever it's time for you to tell your story from that you collected. So this episode is going to be mostly coming from the subreddit RPG horror stories. Dreamy, go get your pizza.
Yes, I will be right back. I'm sorry, everybody. I need to get my Zaw. It's very important.
Yes, it's very important.
Zaw. Okay, I'll be back.
So for everyone in the audience, this episode is going to be mostly coming from the subreddit RPG horror stories, which is one of my favorite subreddits. Like, the stuff that gets posted there is just bonkers, and it's a lot of D&D, so a lot of these submissions are going to be about D&D, but it's not exclusively D&D, which is another reason why I like it. And there's one story specifically that I'll give a specific content warning for. Otherwise, the overall content note for these stories is definitely a lot of stories about inconsiderate TTRPG players and GMs, and a lot of stories where there's, like, interpersonal conflict. So if that's something that you're not into, maybe the stream, maybe the stream isn't for you if it's going to stress you out. The stories are very funny, though, in my opinion. And then while we're still waiting for Dreamy to get her pizza, I'll also say... we do have one email submission for this stream, so I'm very excited about that. And if people have their own stories that they want to tell, these can be horror stories, so like bad things that have happened to you at a table. They can be like fun stories, so like something that happened either like in a game or just a table that like... it can be a TTRPG adjacent, so it could be like an event that you did with your TTRPG table that was really fun. But also you can do like, am I the asshole? So if you're like, hey, I had this thing happen and I'm not sure if I was in the wrong, you can send those in. And also just like advice. I'm planning to have people from like all kinds of different TTRPG backgrounds like guest on, so like if you're trying to write a game and you're looking for advice, like you can submit those stories in, and you can do that. There is a link in chat, or you can email rollforfelicity@gmail.com with a subject line over the table. So but either of those ways you can submit your own stories for people to talk about on stream. I think that's everything. Dreamy, are you back?
I'm here. I just put
Cool.
the pizza on a giant plate and brought some scissors so I can cut it up.
Heck yeah.
Good.
And I'm not gonna lie, guys. Timing was perfect. It is so beautiful, and it looks and smells so good. I got a fancy.
I'm so jealous.
It's a frozen pizza, but I got a fancy one. It's called like hot honey pepperoni,
Oh, man.
and has like
That sounds
feta
really good.
cheese and some other things on it. I
dang.
don't know. Looks
sounds
like
really
I'm a
good.
pepperoni lover.
Now you're gonna make me hungry.
I know.
What did you
Yeah,
eat
yeah.
before?
You gotta post a picture of the pizza.
I can take it here. I'll take a picture of the pizza right now.
I treated myself to like Oreo cereal for breakfast. I don't usually eat it, but my roommate does. So I was like, I'm gonna try some today.
I feel like I used to eat that all the time as a kid.
I'm a Honey Nut Cheerios girly.
Oh, you know what? Honey Nut Cheerios are so good. I'm trying to like take a picture
Yeah.
without showing my like messy as hell room.
That is a
This
nice
is not-
thing for both of
This
you.
is not necessarily the best picture, but here you go. I'm sharing it.
Ooh, that does look really good.
Oh man.
Now I want some pizza. I also realized I was gonna grab coffee
Oh,
before I
man.
actually started the stream, and I forgot to. So, uncaffeinated. All right. This story will wake us up, though, or wake me up.
Okay.
So this is the only story that I have a specific content warning for, which this would be
Woo!
a content warning for sexual harassment and like kind of non-consensual sexual behavior. And this is an entry from r/RPG horror stories. The title of the post is Most Uncomfortable Game of Vampire the Masquerade That I've Ever Seen.
Oh no. I played some freaky deek characters in Vampire the Masquerade. Let
I
me
Dreamy-
can only imagine
put that out there.
As soon as I read this post, I was like, this is top of the order, and this is Dreamy will love/hate this post. It's
Is
kind
it
of
freakier than my Jonesy Bonesy. Sorry,
Yes.
Jonesy Bones.
yes. I would say it's freakier than Jonesy Bones.
I'm just gonna put this out there for anyone who doesn't know. Taylor has
Yeah.
DM'd a private Vampire the Masquerade game for me where I play a freaky deek character named Jonesy Bones.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yes.
We did at the beginning of one of the first game that we played, you did say that you wanted to have your character masturbate.
I did say that because
one of the first things you let
context.
your character do.
yes, he's a freaky deek, okay? But first of all, I would also just like to point out that his whole thing is that he is obsessed with a streamer online. He's like in love with her.
Oh,
Okay.
parasocial. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, he's very parasocial. He's not her mod, but he does donate a lot of money to her, okay? And,
Thank God he's
super
not
in
her
love with
mod.
Yeah, she would not make him his mod or her mod. But
I think
yeah,
he's doing a twit longer about not having a VIP badge. Like,
yeah, he's just a freaky deek. He's just a freaky deek who is obsessed with a streamer. I made him super parasocial.
yeah.
Yes, he did jerk off to her. Okay.
Oh
He did
my
that.
god.
That's the first thing that happened in the session.
That's true. And you know what? Vampires don't even really do that.
I know, that's what I had to say. I had to say, well, you're a
vampires don't
vampire.
even like really do that shit. So it's just like extra funny because they don't do it. Anyways, he does get his happy ending, guys. He does get with the streamer. So.
No.
Yeah. He does get with this streamer, and then she becomes his ghoul. So freaky deeks win in the end.
This is the first horror story is Dreamy.
Oh yeah, and we killed her boyfriend.
You did kill her boyfriend,
God.
yeah.
We killed her boyfriend.
Her boyfriend was bad, so that was, know. that
He was a
less
vampire
bad.
too.
Okay.
She was his ghoul, and
Yeah.
then we killed him because it was like our job from like the council basically to like go and find out what was going on. So anyways, we killed him, and as a reward, they didn't kill her. They just let me have her as my ghoul.
Is a boyfriend worse than the parasocial masturbator? I'm very
No, I don't think so, actually.
No,
I
definitely
think it was
not.
out of the frying pan into the fire for her, but the
Yeah,
boyfriend was
yeah.
bad. Blair,
God,
Canadian
Blair,
Moose
oh
in
my
chat
God.
just said, what a story to walk in on. Yeah, this was like, that's not even the Reddit story, that's just Dreamy. Oh, Mike
That's
just
just
brought me
me, guys.
coffee. That's so cute.
I Played almost exclusively freaky deek characters, I feel.
In Vampire or just in general?
Well, my first Vampire the Masquerade character was very normal. She was not a freaky deek character. But like, I feel like in so many of the things I'm in, Tisha, would you say my character is kind of a freaky deek?
You waterboarded someone.
Okay, see,
So yeah, I guess.
I guess I almost exclusively play freaky deek characters.
I totally forgot about this. So in chat, I did do this fun thing. I almost like forgot to even mention it. So we actually have in chat, all of you can boo and cheer. So the way that you do it is if enough people type boo in chat, like BOO, or enough people type clap or cheer in chat, like once enough different people do that, it'll set off a sound alert that's like booing or cheering. So you can boo the story, yeah, or also there is, if you're like, I don't want to wait for everybody, you can use channel points.
Yeah, you guys can all cheer for my freaky deek characters.
Yeah. So yeah, you can type either boo, like I'm doing right now, or I think clap is one of the things. And once enough different people type those commands, then it'll set off the sound effect. Okay. So this is a freaky deek character that is going to go above and beyond what Dreamy already said. This is kind of a long story, so the two of you can feel free to interrupt as it's going. Okay. So this is from RPG Horror Stories. Back when I was in college a long, long time ago, I was involved with a student organization that organized LARP and tabletop gaming events. A guy I knew from some of the LARP events wanted to start up a Vampire the Masquerade game around that time, and he asked if I was interested in getting it on the ground floor. The aspiring storyteller was young, college freshman at that point, awkward and perpetually high-strung, and I had never seen him run a game before, but I was in the mood for a fun game that I wouldn't have to take too seriously, so I agreed. We had a session 0 where we all generated characters, worked out how we were all supposed to have known each other, and learned a little bit about the world. Aside from myself, there was the guy who put the game together, Peter, and then names the other players, Greg, Matt, Steve, and Eli. I've edited this a little bit because the person put a lot of detail into this player was like this, but it doesn't really have that much impact on the story. I don't remember much about the beginning of the game. We had our usual bits of vampire set dressing, finding unsuspecting mortals to feed on, lurking mysteriously in mist-shrouded alleys, and preening in our various lairs. At some point, we were summoned before the prince of the city, the head vampire in charge, and it is here that my more detailed memories of the session begin. The PCs, the PCs all piled into a limousine and headed for the 100-story hotel in the center of the city that was the Prince's Haven. Greg, one of the players...
Are there places with 100?
Yeah, that's the first... That's a lot.
Is there a building that has 100 stories?
Yeah, the Empire State Building has 96, 106?
Yeah, but those are extremely, extremely tall buildings have 100
Yeah, this is why it's a Target, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know why my brain went to Target the store. This is why it's 100 stories of Target. Greg asked if Peter was serious that the hotel was really 100 stories, since Peter had set the game in a real-world mid-sized city about an hour or so away, and the tallest building in that city wasn't more than 10 stories. Peter said yes. So already, okay, this is interesting.
I would never set a game in real life. You have to deal with all that shit.
You can't make your building 100 stories if you say it's in a real city.
The tallest building is only 20 stories, so this is unrealistic and immersion breaking.
So Freestar,
Vampire is IRL though.
It is usually, yeah, you do usually set it in a real city. But so I just want to get on the record, Freestar, you are aligning yourself with the players. Or align yourself with the GM so far. You're saying, I support what this GM is doing.
I don't know if if you're gonna do a fantasy, I guess, okay, that's fine. Having 100 stories is fine. It's a weird thing to nitpick, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Okay. So I'll keep reading. We were dropped
so
out.
The GM. So the GM made it 100 stories.
Yes, the GM said you're going to see the prince. The prince lives in a hotel that has 100 stories. And then one of the players was like, "This is set in Chicago, or whatever."
This doesn't sound Maple Street. That hotel was 100 stories.
Right? And the GM said, "Yes, it's 100 stories. All right, shut up." So we were dropped out in front of the towering Gothic edifice, and Peter busted out his most extreme superlatives to try and inspire an appropriate sense of awe. Matt tried to intimidate the guards at the door because hotels have those posted at all entrances, but they just told us to go in and take the elevator up to the top floor, so we did. Well, we tried to anyway. We got into the elevator and pushed the button for the top floor. Peter said, "Okay, the doors close." The elevator starts moving, but it stops at the second floor. The door is open, and you see a fireplace against the back wall with a tiger skin rug in front of it. There's a naked woman on the second floor. So they open up, the elevator opens up to the second floor. It's just a room, which is not typically
I've been to hotels. Each floor is not a room. There's hallways, right?
Not this hotel. That's why there's 100 stories, but it's just one room per story. It's a very, very tall, very thin building.
I will say, I have seen shows where an elevator does go directly into the room, but usually that's literally the top floor, and you cannot access that unless you have a key card.
It's usually the penthouse. Yeah, not usually the second floor.
Definitely not the second floor.
And she's naked, right?
Okay, well,
that could be naked.
Let's hear what happens next. There's a naked woman and two guys laying on the rug, and their insert extremely graphic description of sex scene. He finishes
What?
describing the scene and looks at us expectantly. Nobody says anything. Matt's mouth is hanging open. Eli snickers. Peter frowns, then says, the elevator's doors close, and it starts going up again. But it stops on the 3rd floor.
This is a 100 floors of torture is what this is.
Seriously, not each floor. I would die.
The doors opened. The doors opened on the 3rd floor, and there was another graphic sex scene with more participants and more extreme sex acts than on the 2nd floor.
Can you imagine how stinky this building is?
This is my hell. This would be my hell. You know, like how you have like the 9 layers of hell. Like each
this is 100 floors of torture.
It's more hell. Just like, oh god, please tell me they did not go through that 100 times, please.
This time, after he finished with the description, Peter added, "And you really liked seeing it."
You don't say that shit.
You cannot tell me I liked it. No.
I know. That's what. As soon as I read that, I was like, "This is the wildest thing I've ever read."
What the
Melanie,
hell?
Melanie, you're getting the picture. Melanie just said, "Fucking David S. Pumpkin's about to hop in here with the ball gag." Yeah, this is about to be what's happening. This time, in the uncomfortable silence that followed, Greg said, "We didn't press any of the other buttons, just the one for the top floor." Peter got a huge grin on his face and said, "I know. The elevator doors close and it starts going up again." This is
torturous.
This is so funny that the guy was like, "Hey, we didn't press the button for any of the other floors."
I think it's leg day and it's time to just take the
stairs.
Yeah.
There's no stairs.
Can we like jump out the window? Can we just climb like Spider-Man up the side? I think I much prefer that. I much prefer risking my life than having to go through 100 floors of sex scenes and be told that I like it. Like,
your characters love it, by the way.
Your characters get so horny. Your character pop a huge boner.
Okay, you guys are you are really predicting what happens next in the story.
What?
Like, beat for beat. Freestar leaves.
But wait, are these all vampires? Because if they're all vampires, they wouldn't even have sex.
Yes, they are all well, the people. There we go. We got some booze. So the players are vampires. It's kind of unclear if the people having sex are vampires. Later on, it kind of implies that they are, which doesn't make sense, like you said, because vampires don't have sex in Vampire the Masquerade. So this went on for a while.
Just for context,
yes.
Everyone.
Yeah.
In Vampire the Masquerade, and this is actually a thing like in the rule book, vampires like just don't care about sex because blood, like drinking blood is like for them like the ultimate pleasure. So there's like no point in even like having sex or anything like that. They can like try to have sex or pretend to have sex, but like it really like it's just like whatever to them. They like don't give a shit about it. So they just don't do it because like why would you have sex when you could just drink blood?
See, the thing is too, like, anatomy-wise, like, I don't think you have the blood supply to you know,
right? Yeah,
it's a tent. Like, it just doesn't work. I don't think. I don't know. I also read Twilight, so I can't say much. But you know,
yeah. Well, I think the thing that's funny is since this is specifically like this game is they're playing Vampire the Masquerade, so we know kind of what the rules are, and Vampire I think is such a funny game because there's such like nitty-gritty rules for things like that. Like your ability to have sex or mimic that you're having sex is based on your humanity in Vampire the Masquerade. So if you do enough bad stuff, you can't even pretend to have sex anymore. It's like, no, it just doesn't work. You can't get a boner.
You're just like corpse on a table, you know? And my character has lost a lot of humanity. Not the Freaky Deek. He's totally fine.
Yeah, the Freaky Deek's fine,
my normal
surprisingly.
character. Yeah, the Freaky Deek is fine because he has a girlfriend. My normal character.
A girlfriend, a hostage.
I was literally the only one who ever lost humanity in that campaign. It was crazy.
Mila says humans do be fucking. That is true. I guess it makes sense that it's tied to your humanity. Because humans do be fucking. Okay, so this, I'm back to reading the story. This went on for a while. The elevator stopped on each floor, and on each floor there was some new display of depravity. It was like the haunted elevator sketch from SNL, but with hardcore sex instead of David S. Pumpkins. Peter would go into long, lavish descriptions of writhing bodies. Usually there would be some erotic equipment or creatively repurposed furniture, playing a key role in the sexual logistics of the scene. Each time he would tell us that our PCs very much enjoyed what they were seeing, that they were getting turned on and had boners.
But they can't! First of all, they can't because they're vampires.
But also,
literally,
like,
it's just,
what?
First of all, I think obviously you can't just force like your characters to feel a certain way. That takes away their agency, which is very, very wrong. Like, if you're in a tabletop, do not take away your player's agency, first of all. But then second of all, like, it just, in the lore of Vampire the Masquerade, they just would not. They wouldn't give a shit.
I think by the third floor, if not sooner, I would like immediately heel turn and be like, actually, Peter, I don't think 100 stories is really realistic. Could this just be a 5-story hotel like normal? Like, actually, I think in Chicago the tallest story is 20, and even that seems too much. So can we like scale it back?
Can we scale it back, Peter?
The only accommodation I will give him is 100 is a lot of ways to describe different sex scenes. Like, and he
started floor 2 was a threesome. Like, if I was trying to build up to 100 stories, I would start off
like vanilla, and then like maybe add like a little bit of different positioning with each floor, and then add people. Like, I think you're going too fast.
This DM must be so sexually repressed. I do not even like. Okay, I literally cannot believe he was like, and your characters are all horny. And I'm like, kill. I would have murdered this man. Okay, I'm sorry. This is a person who needs to be in jail.
I would say this is a person who needs to be in jail.
Yeah.
I saw the red flags as soon as she started describing Peter as the college. I'm like, oh, I've been there before. Girlie, run.
Yeah, I think the only reason the story makes any sense is because all of the players, I believe, are men. I think if there were any women in this story, the women would have left. I think. Like, the game would have ended. Like, maybe if there's only one woman, maybe not, because there can be, like, some pressure. Like, if everyone else is acting like it's normal, then you're like, oh. But if there were 2 women here, they would have left, I think.
They would have left.
I hope.
I don't know if I could. Like, I can't imagine a guy going to his buddies like, yeah, I'm going to describe 100 sex scenes to you. They're like, bro, it's the thing. And it's like...
And I'm going to tell you that you have a boner.
I need to know what happens next. I don't even know what could happen.
Yeah, all right. Let's see what happens. 5:99.
Yeah. If this sounds super uncomfortable, inappropriate, and cringy, then just remember that none of us, aside from Peter, had any idea that this was going to happen. And we were in an open gaming room with about 30 other people. It was worse than you're imagining. Because he says at the beginning, like, oh, it's like a game night at college or whatever. So it's like there's other people playing games here as well.
Are other people looking?
This is even in private?
This is not in private.
Oh my god. I would have left.
This is college. I just have to say, I said this is a long story. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more paragraphs of things that happen.
Oh, wait, for people who just joined the stream, TLDR, this is a player in a Vampire the Masquerade game. Their DM was like, oh, you go to this 100-story hotel, and they go into the hotel, and basically every floor so far, the DM or the GM has made it so that they have to stop at that floor. It opens into a room. There's sexual stuff going on. This is like 100 floors of torture.
Yeah.
In a public space.
And the players
public space.
Did not want this. They did not want this, you know. They and the DM's like, oh yeah, you're getting turned on by this. You're getting a boner, yada, which you cannot say. Okay.
I would call the RA. I would be like, excuse me, please. They're doing this in a public space. It's making me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes, boo.
All right. So.
All right. Yeah, it's really wild. So after the 4th floor, I asked if the elevator. So this kind of like goes back a little bit. So the person telling the story already said that this happened for a while, but then kind of goes back to clarify that after the 4th floor, I asked if the elevator was going to stop on every floor. Peter grinned and said, maybe. I asked if we could skip the actual descriptions and just say that we saw lots and lots of sex on the way up the hotel. Peter shook his head and said, it might be important. Greg facepalmed and tuned out for the rest of the game, but the rest of us each gave in to the insanity in our own way. Steve tried pushing other buttons on the control panel, but it had no effect. I tore the control panel off the wall and tried to control the elevator by manipulating the wiring, but that didn't work either. Matt started shooting the people in the sex scenes as soon as the door opened.
My god, I love that. I love it.
I was like, that would be a dream.
I'm snapping for the guy who's just shooting everyone. I'm anti-gun, but I do approve of it in this situation.
Yeah. That worked once, but on the next floor up, the performers suddenly all had superhuman toughness, and the bullets didn't have any effect. Eli started using vampire mind control powers on the performers, but apparently they were all lower generation, more powerful than we were, because that didn't do anything either, and so it continued. So apparently it's like, oh yeah, they are vampires because your vampire stuff isn't working on them.
Okay,
which
and if they're older too, they definitely are not having sex. Let me just say, they do not care about sex. They don't even want to pretend to care about it. There's in Vampire the Masquerade, they just don't care and they don't want it. And oh my god,
I think the only thing I can commend is that this like GM had found a way to tell all of his sexual fantasies and fan fictions to a group of people who couldn't read. Like, good on you.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Peter, also a freshman in college, they said at the beginning. So this is a 19-year-old, which I feel like just makes it even worse that you're imagining, like, this person.
Horrendous.
Yeah, because it's like at 19, most people haven't had sex that many times, if at all, at age 19. And so it's like just this person being like, and then the floor opens and somebody's sitting on a chair, but the chair is having sex with them. Like, it's just all this like weird stuff that he's describing. This is the part where it goes, I would say all of this is sexual harassment. This is the part where it kind of goes beyond the pale. So just a warning for people.
Okay. I'm ready to kill.
After several more floors, we slowly began to realize that Peter was squirming around in his chair and appeared to be touching himself as he described the scenes. The bizarre goings on
to the table.
Yes.
First of all, I just want to say I would make such a scene. I'd be like, I'm very confrontational. So if it was me and I know that, I'd probably say very loudly, "Are you freaking jerking it right now?" Just really like out in public, embarrassing everyone.
But maybe that's his thing. Maybe that's Peter's thing.
Oh god,
maybe it is. But either way,
exposure kink.
At least they'd get him kicked out. At least he'd be getting kicked out. You know?
Yeah. Also, the bizarre goings-on had been noticed by other people in the room, and we had attracted a small crowd of mystified onlookers. Greg got up and said he needed to go to the bathroom. Peter said he'd wait for him to get back, but Greg said, "Don't worry about it." Peter shrugged and was about to describe the next lurid floor, but I managed to cut him off. "Look," I said, "let's just skip to the top floor. At this rate, we're gonna run out of time before we make it to the prince." Peter was crestfallen, but even he couldn't argue with the clock. He relented, summarized the remaining 85 floors of sex in a sentence or two, and the doors opened onto the 100th floor. The crowd dispersed, and play continued. So they kept playing.
I did not even know what could happen now.
Yeah. I don't know what would be the rest of your session after that? It's like, I just spent, it sounds like at least, I would say that sounds like at least an hour of game time with people trying to say I shoot everyone or I try to break the elevator. What is the rest of the session?
After I realized I had no control and I was going to hear these sex scenes, I think I would just leave. I think I'd be like, you know what? My character shoots himself. Bye.
Yeah.
I leave.
I give in to the vampirism, and oh, you want to do a 2-person thing? Okay, like he bites my neck, I bite his neck. Like, okay, we go. Bye.
Yeah.
The last paragraph, which is kind of the wrap up for the story, is I honestly don't remember anything else about that game. It was probably the creepiest, most uncomfortable gaming experience I've ever actually sat through. I don't have any good reason for why we all went along with it as long as we did. Morbid curiosity, maybe? They kept the game going for a few more sessions on subsequent open gaming nights, but I didn't join them.
Wow.
So wild that the game continued, in my opinion. Really.
Yeah.
Really wild that the 4 or 5 other players were like, I think it's 4 other players were like, yeah, the sex elevator was kind of rough, but I guess we'll see what else this guy has in store.
You have to be like an amazing GM, like god tier GM, like to like be able to be like, okay, I awkwardly put you through all these sex scenes, but damn it, the game isn't good enough and I'll keep playing. Like, yeah, there was that really weird part where we had 100 stories of sex scenes, but he was really good about incorporating our backstories. So, like,
But maybe this is a situation, and I don't know how like old this story is, right, or how long ago it took place, but I feel like there's like scarcity, right?
Yes.
Where if you find like a group that is willing to play a game that you want to play, like it's hard to find other players. It's hard to find a DM. So like maybe you try to stick it out just because like you don't have any other options, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be very unfortunate, but
It's implied. I don't think so I think the story is like was posted several years ago on RPG Horror Stories, and the person who's telling the story says it happened when they were in college and says it was a long time ago. So I think probably maybe like 80s or 90s, like probably the story took place.
And I feel like especially then, like people were like, "Oh, tabletop RPGs are for fucking nerds."
Yeah,
so
yeah.
God.
But I do not think
sex scenes is a lot. It's a lot to forget.
Yeah.
Sex scenes with touching yourself is a lot to like hang around.
I have had some situations when I've played games that, not anything to this level, but I have had situations in games where a GM will kind of be like, oh, like you feel this way, or your character, like, and kind of like put stuff on me, which depending on the situation, like I'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like if I roll something and it's like a failure or whatever, and the GM's like, you feel like afraid or whatever, that's one thing. But I do really, as a GM, also try not to tell players this is how you're feeling, So I think that alone is like, to that be like, you feel turned on by this. I feel like I would try to get out. Like I would try to leave. I would be like,
I would for sure leave. Not only would I leave, but I would have assaulted this person. I would have beat him up. I would have beaten him up.
Yeah.
There's something like kind of uncomfortable when your agency is taken away.
Yeah.
Like when you have like this clear thing of like, oh, I want to do something, but it's like when you have a story, and like D&D or TTRPGs is pretty much telling a story together.
Mm-hmm.
So like if your agency is taken away where you're just witnessing a story more so than actually playing it, it is like kind of a shitty feeling. Like it's like, okay, whose story is this? Like I'm not here to watch a movie, like I'm here to like actually play a game.
Yeah.
The another thing too that I've had happen is like usually because I play a lot of one shots. So in a one shot, like sometimes things get a little bit railroaded. Like players still have agency, but like sometimes it's like this is what the story is, this is what you're doing. But usually there'll be kind of like an epilogue at the end that's like, what does your character do like after, like going on to? And I've a couple of times had GMs say like I'll say like this is what happens to my character afterwards, and then they'll kind of say something that like kind of changes what the ending is. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess there's no point in me like arguing about it. But like I also feel like that's kind of an agency thing. Like if you want to have an epilogue, then you should be allowed to like kind of say what happens. Unless it's like something that doesn't fit in the world, I guess. But
I think one of my first campaigns, I had a character that was like killed and sent to hell without like
jeez.
Oh my
being
god.
able to do anything. Like the other players were trying to like help out, and it didn't work. Like it was a new DM, so like I imagine it was like still a learning curve. But like yeah, I was sent to hell, and then they had to come and get me. But it was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm dead now. Like I don't get a chance to save myself. I'm just in tiefling hell apparently.
Yeah.
I really
That's
do
always
feel like if
frustrating.
like a DM is good, then they know to be gracious.
Yeah.
You know? Like, yeah,
And
you can like have your characters like just die or whatever, but then like is that like fun?
I think if it's like for
Yeah.
a story purpose, you should probably talk to your player first and be like, hey,
Yeah.
like this is kind of like, are you cool with this? Like, this is kind of part of the arc? Like, is this like something you want to see from your character?
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like, even before, so like obviously now I've been like GMing for like going on 6 years. And when I started GMing, I didn't really know like about the concept of like a session zero or like safety tools specifically, because I was like new to the experience. But even not knowing of those concepts, like when I ran my first D&D campaign, which is still going, like I sat down with the players and we like made characters, and I had a checklist of things of like, would you be okay with this? Like, would you be okay with that? And like character death was one of the things that I was like, in D&D, obviously your characters can die, but if any one of the players had felt like, I don't want my character to die, that's fine. I think that's totally fine in a game to say, like, maybe there could be other consequences. Maybe other things can happen, but I don't want my character
I love that.
to go to hell.
Well, anyways, guys, I'm gonna run a Curse of Strahd campaign, but it's gonna have a hotel. Like the castle's gonna have 100 floors of sex orgies, so you better be prepared for that if you want to join.
Yeah, and I'm getting turned on against my will.
Yeah, and you will have a boner.
Yeah, it's not even possible for me, but
Session 0, there's gonna be Strahd's Castle, 100 floors, sex, and you will have a boner, or else you're not playing.
Yeah, I mean it's not even possible for me, but it's there.
We'll find a way.
It's a magic boner.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like the like start playing description of like trying to get players for like you will have a boner during this game.
Yeah. You will have a boner and you will like it.
It's gonna be Spooky's House of Jump Scares, but instead it's gonna be Spooky's House of Orgies. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, even that would be more generous than what this GM did, which is not warn anyone at all. Have either of you, I have not, so I don't have like a story to tell about this or anything, but have either of you had experiences in a game where you're like, this is somebody's kink? Like where you're like going through something and you're like...
No, and I think it's because I have not been in that many games, I guess I should say. Like, I was in some in college, but it was just like D&D and it was just whatever. And then really I didn't start playing more until I was like on your streams, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And then at around like the same time that I got invited to the 0XP one, I had like an IRL one. Mm-hmm. But everyone's normal. I guess the thing is everyone in my that I've played with is like a normal person.
Yeah, you're the crazy person.
I'm the crazy one. Okay? I'm the crazy one and they have to deal with me.
I think this is lighthearted because it was not like a horror story or anything, but I did have a game that was not on a stream that the GM introduced. There were like mind flayers or something and introduced this slime girl that was like super horny. And I was like, and used like a little like anime like sexy slime girl for like the token. No. But that was like very like, it was like funny basically. It wasn't it wasn't secretly the person's kink. Freestar, have you ever played in a game where you were like, someone's getting turned on by this?
Not so much. Like I've seen people make characters and you tell like there is some level of like fetishization to it, but I haven't really experienced that too much. I don't know. Maybe it's just people I stream myself with.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm just very oblivious, but like I prefer not to think of that thing.
Yeah.
That's
There's
fair.
something
That's
just
fair.
like, maybe if I put some thought to it, I would see, but I'm like, I do not perceive. I'm gonna
Yeah. That's like
gonna-
sometimes with people's like TTRPG characters, like there's the thing online where you're like somebody posts a piece of art and you're like, I can tell this person is a furry artist, like even if the art is
Yeah.
not of a furry. And
Yeah, you
sometimes
can
with
always tell.
TTRPGs, like there's, which is not like negative or whatever, there's just a style to it. But sometimes
Yeah.
with TTRPGs, there's also that thing where it's like somebody makes a character and you're like, oh, I can tell this is like like this character is fine, nothing bad is happening, but I can tell that this is like maybe this character has been in some situations before.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So some of the comment highlights from this post, one of them makes the point that Dreamy made. My favorite part is the insistence that your characters were aroused enough to have boners. Pretty sure that since you're vampires, you're all dead, and your bodily functions like blushing, crying, and indeed boners
Yeah.
no longer work without you spending blood points on them. What a load of
Yeah.
storyteller wank, honestly. So,
Oh my god.
which even that I think kind of shows that this is like an older version of vampire, because blood points I don't think are a thing in like the 5th edition. So, I think they were playing an older edition. And then this another comment said, I mean, I can totally see a vampire prince doing this as a power play and to satisfy their own twisted desires, but that's an immortal psychopath who's lived without sunlight or a properly functioning emotional register for hundreds of years. What
Yeah.
was the GM's excuse?
Oh my god.
I think that pretty much, sums up the story. So that was had that labeled in my notes as Vampire the Masquerade sex elevator.
Oh my
That's our
god.
first story.
Oh my god.
Dreamy, do you wanna tell your story?
Okay, I do have a story to share with everyone. My friend saw my tweet that I was going to be in your show, and she said, please tell them my story. So I said, okay. This is tabletop RPG adjacent. So, for those of you guys who are dating right now or trying to date someone, it's a rough world out there, let me just say. Apparently, it's just very, very bad. My friend recently went on a first date with someone where so their common thing was tabletop RPGs, because they both like tabletop RPGs, right? So they were like, okay, let's meet up. Let's like go on a date. So they decided to meet up at a tabletop RPG cafe. So like you could order food and
Ooh.
drinks there, and you can also like rent board games and stuff to
Uh-huh.
play there. So they went there, and it was already going bad because first of all, she said that he was rude to the wait staff. Red flag number 1. So basically they
Yeah.
were like, oh, hey, is this your first time? And she was like, yes, this is my first time. And he was like, we already know what we're doing.
Oh.
Yeah,
Damn.
basically.
Oh,
Just like-
jeez.
Yeah, we already know what we're doing. And then when they were like picking out games to rent, the people were like trying to help, right? And he was like, I don't need any help. Like, basically, yeah, just we know what we're doing. I don't need any help, etc., right? So she was like, icky.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I love this.
they-
Sorry to interrupt. This booing sound effect is so long. I just
so
realized
good.
how long it was.
this guy deserves it.
Yeah.
And in person, so she said that over text their conversations were fine, but then like in person when they were talking, she said that he only asked her one singular question their entire date.
Oh.
So he did not ask her. So the only thing he asked her was what her job was. And then the entire time she was asking him questions, and she said that at a certain point, she's just straight up stopped asking questions to see if he would like say something or do something. And he didn't.
Oh, dang.
So he never did, guys. Anyways, they were playing, I can't remember what game they were playing, but they were playing some game where it's some board game where like their board game characters got to choose to do certain things or something like that. So she was just like, I'm just gonna have fun and play the board game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna have fun and play the board game. So she was trying to do something, and I think she rolled for it or something, and like it didn't work out, and he was like, your charisma check failed.
Wait, so he was saying like IRL, like
IRL, yes.
Yeah, like
IRL, yeah, because I think she was trying to maybe convince him to do something, but it didn't work out, and he was like, "Yeah, your charisma check failed."
Oh my god.
And he was making all these D&D references to IRL, like, my stat is whatever, right? I can only remember charisma one because I was like, dude, this is so fucking cringe.
It's also so like mean, I feel like, to like if so like you're on a first date, like it's already kind of like you feel cringe, and then somebody being like, you try to like be like, oh hey, like maybe like try to flirt or something, and then they just go, charisma check failed.
So
yeah. And then they were like doing other stuff, and so she ignored that. And then at a later point, he was like, I'm gonna try my persuasion check. Or I don't just like IRL stuff, right? Just like I know, I'm like dead. And so so just like a lot of cringe, like that's a -2 to your charisma modifier, like shit like that.
I've been not with a D&D boy, but I've been on that type of first date before.
Really?
But you were the one saying charisma check failed.
Yeah, you were the one saying it.
I think I would have made it maybe on even. Oh my god, the guy would just say huzzah and woo every 5 seconds.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Oh no.
Oh, are you with a D&D boy now?
Yeah, I'm with a D&D boy now.
Does he
doesn't make me roll charisma?
Has he ever IRL said to you
no
that your persuasion check failed?
No, I think he'd rather die.
Can you please say it to him at some point? Just his reaction?
I will. He will be so mad.
I'll do it to Mike as well, and he'll just think I'm being stupid.
Yeah, so she went on this date. Anyway, she came over to my place like right afterwards because I live like really close to their date spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, I was like, oh, because I had hope for her, you know, because I was like, oh, like finding someone who's into tabletop RPGs, like while it is more common now, like I don't know, I just feel like dating is hard now, right?
Yeah.
So I was hopeful for her, and she came over and she was like, dude, it was not good. I will say he did not lie about his height.
There's like
he at least didn't lie about his height, but when we were looking at his profile, I was like, hey, did you look at his height? And I was like, he's shorter than you, which is like fine. But I just don't think she was expecting it because she's like a really tall person, you know. But so she did say the good thing. She did say that he didn't lie about his height, and that was a good thing.
Yeah.
But that was probably the only good thing.
She should have, when he was doing all this stuff, she could have just been like, kind of like looked down at him and been like, intimidation check or something.
I wish she would have done that. That would have been so fucking funny.
You know, when I was
rolled to intimidate,
I would have been like, wisdom save, and if I pass, I'm like, oh, okay, we're not having a second date.
She did say she did not want a second date. So he was like very respectful about that.
That's
at
good.
least.
That's
yeah. So he was respectful about her not wanting a second date. But like, how could you? Okay, aside from all the tabletop RPG cringe, persuasion, charisma checks that he was doing, like, how could you want to go on a date with someone who literally did not ask a single thing about you?
Yeah, that's rough.
There's like a certain level with like awkward nerd dates where it just becomes listing things, the game, where it's like, what comics do you like? I like this list. Oh, what movies do you like? I like this list. Oh, what video games do you like? I like this list. And it gets to a point where you're like, can we talk about something that's not like nerd adjacent? Like, can we just talk about like the weather? I don't give a fuck. Let's just But I've been on that awkward date, except I got guilt tripped into a second date and then didn't end up going, thankfully.
Oh, that's good.
It was rough.
Yeah, I feel like that's what's rough about, like, so my husband and I met because we worked together, so like we already knew each other. And then when we were
Mhm.
going on dates, it was like we'd already been hanging out, we'd already been like, doing other stuff. So that's, I think, the thing whenever I have been on dates that were like from a dating app, or like that were explicitly like, this is a date. I always had like, they're always a little bit uncomfortable, I feel like, because it is, like you said, just like listing things, or like you don't really know what to talk about. You don't have any like shared like
Mhm.
experiences or anything like that. It is kind of hard to have a date.
Taylor, I was approached at Walmart at 11 p.m. for this day.
At Walmart?
Oh my god.
It was
Wait.
Walmart. I'm in sweatpants and a neon t-shirt, and this guy approaches me and
How
is
neon?
like, it's like a neon green, I'm gonna be honest. It was like for a
Okay.
brain injury group or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, oh my god, you're so beautiful. Can we have like a cup of coffee together? And
Oh no.
I was nerved by my friends because they're like, you should put yourself out there and like just go for things and go on dates. And so I was like, sure. And he goes, huzzah, let's exchange numbers.
Wait, so you did go on the date?
I did go on the date. I did.
Oh no.
It was a low point in my life. It was really a low point in my life.
I
have a
one
lot of
time-
bad dating stories, I feel too. Go ahead, Taylor.
I was just gonna say this wasn't even a date, but one time I used to have to take the bus to work, and so I was waiting at the bus stop, and I had headphones in. I was listening to I think I was listening to a podcast, so I could kind of hear what was going on. But like not quite, like, because with music I feel like you can't hear anything what people are saying. And this guy was also waiting at the bus and came up to me and and was like, hey, can I get your phone number? But I didn't quite hear what he said. And so I like took my headphones out and I was like, sorry, what did you say? And he was like, oh, can I get your phone number? And I just went, oh no, I don't like give my number out to people. And then because that's the first time that had ever happened to me. And like, I was just like at a bus stop. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. And so my brain like short circuited and I was like, oh, what if I misinterpreted what he was saying and he wasn't like asking for my phone number for like a date and there was something else going on? So so he was like, oh, okay. And started to walk away and I said, wait a minute, what do you need it for? It was just like so horrible, but my brain was just not working. And he turned back around and he said, oh, I just think you're really pretty and I'd like want to talk to you sometime. And I went, oh, sorry, no.
Oh my god! I'm
like,
dead.
So, just me not knowing what's going on. Like, that was so mean, but it was not, I did not intend to be.
I would perish. That's like twice in a row you struck
I
out.
know,
Like,
it
in
was
a
so-
second.
I know, it was
Not
not
only
good.
no, but let me clarify. Okay, double no.
Double
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Yeah, that was not a good day for him. Okay, I'm gonna do one more like really, really quick story, and then we'll take a quick break and come back for the second half. So this this story is just from r/D&D. And it's called How to Kindly Tell Someone They Are Being Left Out of the Next Campaign. Hello all, needed some help with this. Context. We are a small group of friends playing some D&D in person. We have a pretty good group together, a good mix of experience and no experience. I'm about to first time DM the next 2 campaigns, Dragon of Icespire and Wild Beyond the Witchlight. There's just one problem, one of the players. He's an older gentleman and the dad of 2 of our players. He's very hot-headed, brash, and newish to the game. He only cares about...
I'm sorry, I'm not playing with anybody's parents, okay?
Yeah. He only cares about combat, not the RPG aspect. And whenever we do story stuff or prep work, he complains or just goes outside to smoke. He's very disrespectful when he does this, and it's getting on a few people's nerves. As a DM, I really don't want to deal with him because it's going to be hard enough to first-time DM. Because of how he is, he probably won't take it well. How should we as a group tell him that we don't want to have him for our next campaign?
Tell him it's going to be story heavy and absolutely no combat. Like,
oh, that's true, yeah.
Yeah,
I
which
just,
Wild Beyond the Witchlight is like that.
mhm.
Like it is very story heavy.
I feel like combat has its place in D&D, right? Like it's fun, it's a power fantasy, you know. And I'll never remiss someone to be like, "Oh yeah, I just like the combat." But it is
Yeah,
also
I'm
a
sacred
balancing
flaming
act.
everyone that I
Yeah.
see.
That is such a weak cantrip, Dreamy.
I know, but it sounds so good, right?
It sounds so good, but goddamn, cast a guiding bolt.
I'm casting sacred flame.
And like it comes down to where like you can have a group that like min maxes and whatever, that's fine. But I think you have to have that balance, because if you're gonna be like a combat only gamer, I think you need to be in a group that's like specifically for like combat, right?
Hmm.
Because otherwise, like you're gonna be bored, or you're gonna be rushing the people that want to do RP. Because I feel like
Yeah.
that's like such a good part of D&D is like the RP and like talking and learning about the world and stuff like that. And I've been in that situation where it's really frustrating when you're trying to learn about the world and like the person's just like looking for the next fight, and it's like, no, there's more to it. Take some stuff that it isn't just for combat. So I would. It's just not going to be a good mix if you join the next one. Dad aside, I don't think I can roleplay in front of my dad.
I would
God. Especially if we go through 100 floors of sex orgy. I don't want my daughter.
Yeah. Get those 100
nightmare.
floors going.
Maybe that's how to get the dad out of the group, is just at the beginning of, what do they say, Dragon of Ice Spire, just say the Ice Spire has 100 floors.
We open up on the scene of a dragon house.
Yes.
That's kind of NADPOD kind of starts with that.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, what do you think you would do, the two of you would do in this scenario if you had this dad that you needed to kick out of your group?
Okay, I would just be like, I don't want to play with you anymore. You can't join us.
Yeah, you can't sit with us.
But even though that like would not be like the best way to do it, I feel like I'd probably be really just upfront with it and be
Yeah.
like, we're just gonna play a game that you're not interested in, so you will not be joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would be like, hey, this is going to be a very story-driven game. I've seen that you don't really like doing story-driven stuff. So I don't want to waste your time. And so I think it's probably better if you sit out of this campaign. If they really wanted to be involved, maybe I might bring them in to play a boss or something like that. Because since they like combat, they can like still feel like they're participating in their kid's life that way. But like at the very least, I'm maybe like, it's just not going to be a game you're going to be interested in, because it really needs to be roleplay heavy. So unless you're going to like really lean into that aspect, I just don't feel you would be a good fit for this.
That is so diplomatic. See, I would have called them out before this already. As soon as they went out for a smoke break the first time, I would be like, you can't leave during this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really awkward. Yeah.
That's so rude. And like sometimes you do need to like, especially playing in person. I feel like when I was playing, so now pretty much I have like one game that's in person. All my other games are online. And I feel like online it's easier to remember to take a break because you're like sitting in one spot and you're like on the computer, and like I feel like I get tired more quickly like at that point. In person, sometimes you like forget to, or like people are snacking and like doing stuff so you forget to take a break. So sometimes people do say like, hey, I need a second, and like walk away. But like if it's like whenever anyone is doing story stuff or like shopping or anything or like RPing, then he's like, I'm gonna take a smoke break and just leaves.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
As it is, I would have a hard time because I hate the smell of secondhand smoke. So I don't think I
do
could sit
too.
for hours around that, to be honest.
Yeah,
but like,
I do as well.
I think online lends itself to some distraction. I feel like it's a lot easier to make sure everybody's focused when you're in person. And that should be like the time where you can like see everybody's big reactions. Because when you're online, you don't, especially if you're not using Facecam or VTube Studio or whatever, like you can't see everybody's big reactions to the things. And so like it's a lot easier for someone to be, I don't know, playing Minecraft in the background, like
That's true. Oh my
while
gosh.
playing the
Yeah.
game, especially during those moments. But like I think you have to be engaged in some way because this affects you. Like, yeah, you're wanting to go fight the dragon, but the lead up into like where the dragon is or where like the enemy is or the intrigue is also a big part of it. Like it's a story. It's not a go play Baldur's Gate. Like just skip all the dialogue scenes. Or like go
Yeah.
play like Skyrim. Like if you're just wanting combat, like you need to have some aspect of a story, otherwise you're just playing a video game.
Yeah, or find a table that like just wants to do dungeon crawls as well, because like
Yeah.
there are some like old school. It might not
Mhm.
be in person, but there are some like more old school players who like that's what they want to do, and that's you know
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah.
Mila just said in chat, "This sounds like my dad. He fast forwards character development scenes in shows and movies and just watches action
Love
scenes,"
Oh my gosh.
which I'm like, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I think you just have to be respectful to all players at the table.
Yeah.
And even if it's not your story beat, you still have to be respectful to other people's stories. Like, and that just doesn't sound respectful at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Mhm.
big. I think that's the crux of it. One of the comments says, "Get everyone else to bring their dads. The dads will naturally start their own group, and the problem will solve itself. Then years down
That's
the
so
line,
good.
the two groups can reconvene and duke it out."
Oh my God.
And
Oh
someone
my
else
gosh.
suggested that the two, because it says that it's the dad of like two of the players, and says like just have the two players like talk to him and be like, "Hey, we don't want you in the game."
Dead.
I think it's time for you to get back together with mom.
Take a break from the game and
Yeah.
do some
Have date
dating.
night.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, well, speaking of taking a smoke break, we're gonna take a quick break, probably like 5 minutes, and you know, stretch, get a drink, get a snack, etc., etc. And yeah, we'll be back in like 5 or so minutes. So see
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, we are back with more TTRPG stories for the second half of Over the Table.
Hi,
and we're gonna
everybody.
get just right back into it, I think. Yeah. Say hi, say hi.
Hi.
And this is our email submission. So this is from potentially a viewer. They might be in chat right now. And just as a reminder, if you are watching right now and you have your own kind of story that you would want to tell, you can do that using the form that's in chat, or you can also send an email, or if you're on Tumblr, you can send me an ask. All different ways that you can do it. They don't have to be horror stories also. That's what I'm focusing on this session, but it doesn't need to be. So this is our email submission from Saul, who I believe uses they, them pronouns. And their submission is, "Am I the asshole for wanting my character to be more grounded in the setting? I, 19 non-binary, am relatively new to D&D, joined March 2023, so yeah, pretty new, less than a year, and currently in a Curse of Strahd campaign. We do our campaigns differly. It's text-based,
Speaking of Curse of
play-by-play.
Strahd.
Yeah, that's what I was like, oh, that's like wild.
hey.
You just mentioned that. We do our campaigns differently. It's text-based play-by-play because of scheduling and without a session 0. Yes, without a session 0. Because of that, early on in the campaign, before the campaign proper, there have been some problems, capitalized, especially since my druid clashes a lot with the rest of the characters, especially our paladin and ranger.
Oh no,
Which would
that's me in the 0 XP stream.
A lot of clashes,
Yeah.
which would sometimes take a toll on me. Aside from that, I've had bad experiences with character death in RP settings, which would cause breakdowns in the past whenever my character is downed. This will be important later. Before arrival on Krezk, which I have not played Curse of Strahd, so I'm assuming this is a location, but I'm not that familiar with it. Our ranger was drawn to something reminiscent of Lolth, which Lolth, for anyone in chat who doesn't know, is the like associated with Drow. It's like the Spider Queen, right? I believe. And I would admit I felt a bit of jealousy. Only 2 of us had things tied to Barovia in general, and oftentimes I've had to suggest ideas in character, considering our DM is unreachable outside of the campaign. When I told the Ranger player about it, they wrote an essay about how I have main character syndrome, how I want everything in this campaign to be about me, even the breakdown over character death I mentioned. It was a long essay, and I forgot most of it, but I got the gist. They also told me that if they were the DM, they would be burnt out as well. Am I the asshole? P.S. I've had multiple people tell me to leave the campaign considering the problems it had, but I hesitated to leave considering those people taught me D&D, and I do not know anyone who would accept me in their Curse of Strahd game. So that's the whole thing, and I think they mentioned that they're playing I think they mentioned that they're playing why can't I think of the name of it? A drow. I think they mentioned that. Maybe not. I was under the impression they were playing a drow because
if you're playing a drow and you're not connected to law like at all, and you're giving that story to another character, like what?
Yeah, I thought that they mentioned that. Maybe it was somewhere else in the email. It wasn't this part, or maybe I'm like losing my mind. But I thought they were playing a drow druid. Mm-hmm. But that might not be true. That may be losing my mind. But yeah, what do you all think about this situation?
I don't think it's main character syndrome to ask for things if everybody's getting something. The fact that the DM is not available outside of session is kind of wild to me.
Yeah.
Like,
I think so too, yeah.
Maybe it's just because I'm used to multi, like, you message him, like, hey, I want this for my character, and, like, he'll try and incorporate it. But, like, I think you need to have that communication with your players to, like, see what their wants or what they're looking for in the campaigns. I don't know. That's wild. That's wild.
That is pretty wild.
Yeah, I think so, too. I've GM'd, like I said, I've been GMing for, like, 6 years. So, like, I think I've always been open to, like, people DMing me and being like, hey, I want this for my character, or, like, here's an idea I have, or things like that. Honestly, to me, that makes it easier as a GM because you prep less. Like, if your player sends you, like, a thing of, like, I want this to happen, and I want this NPC to be here, like, unless it really clashes with the story or clashes with something that's, like, already ongoing, which then I would tell the player, like, hey, this, contradicts this other thing, or, like, I was planning on this other thing, but yeah, that's wild to just be like, I'm not available outside of sessions. Don't contact me.
That is crazy. Imagine if I just couldn't contact, like, anyone that was DMing for me.
Yeah. I think it's not bad to ask to have, like, more involvement in the story. Like, you need to have something tying you together, and I think like, if it's a new DM, like, maybe they don't understand that, but, like, if it isn't a new DM, like, I think it's so much easier if you have something that connects the player to the world. I know, like, Curse of Strahd is hard because you're in a foreign land, right? Like, you're not going to have, like, a lot of your backstory connections. But even if it is something in the world that is, like, kind of geared towards you, or, like, that'll draw you in, or, like, help you connect to the other players, like, maybe something in their backstory is, like, related or whatever, like, lets it feel more immersed than, like, just and if you're just giving things to other people and then it doesn't happen to you, that's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would be one thing because obviously there's, like, some context left out of this and we don't know the whole story. So I think it would be one thing if this character, the person who wrote in, has or wants, it would be one thing if they have a connection to Lolth and they're upset that another player also does. I think that in that case, maybe you would be, like, kind of the asshole because multiple people could, it's like a big, god or whatever in D&D. Maybe then it's like, oh, I want to be the only one who has this. Maybe then you're the asshole unless you feel like this character is, like, copying a lot of stuff that you're doing. But if it's just you saying, like, my character has no connection to the story, my character has a connection to this, god or whatever, and instead of connecting me to this, part of the world, you're connecting another player and cutting me out of it, I think that's fair to be upset about. I think that's fair to be like, hey, Throw me a bone.
Yes! I feel, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I've seen campaigns where it's like the main character syndrome, where it's like it seems like every arc is based off of like one character. And that can be frustrating for the other players. And it leads to like, well, if my character dies, then I'm just gonna leave because like
Yeah.
or like if you feel like your character can just be removed, like and nothing will change, then you probably need to evaluate like how much you're involving that player in the story or how much the other characters are interacting.
Yeah, I think that's true. I really feel for this person because they said multiple people have told them to leave the campaign, which to me says some of the stuff they left out is also pretty bad because they said they've had conflicts with other players. If multiple people are saying you should leave that campaign, then like probably
they should probably leave.
Yeah, but I feel for them because they said, oh, like these people taught me how to play D&D, and I don't know if anyone else, like I don't think anyone would accept me in a Curse of Strahd game, which like you're a new player, but there are like Curse of Strahd is a really popular module for people to run. So I do think you could find a table.
To be honest, when you play Curse of Strahd once, it's probably not good to play it again because like the secrets are all gone. Like the whole thing about Curse of Strahd is like there's a lot of
all out.
Yeah, like because it's in a way because it is a module, it can be linear and like they change, but like there's certain things that are like kind of like constants among them, and if you already know it kind of, unless you can separate that player and character, like it's not as valuable. Like I would just try and find another group regardless. But I can also see it. D&D is TTRPGs. I'm sorry, I'm very much a D&D player, so but
this is also specifically D&D, so that's fine.
But like D&D and TTRPGs, it's a very social game, and that's the hard part. Like I think anything that you play socially, whether video games or like RPGs or whatever, it's trying to find that good mix of people. Like a game is only as good as the players that you're playing with, right?
That's very true.
And it's hard because you get attached to characters, you get attached to like playing, and it's very hard to walk away from that, especially when it's your first time and you're just eager to like do something. But sometimes certain campaigns are just not worth sticking around for.
So true. So true and valid.
But
that's true.
There is going to inevitably be like conflict between players or between characters just because of that social aspect, and it's part of the DM's job, which again, wild that he's not involved.
I can't even imagine not being involved. Like what?
But part of
like,
it,
what do you do even?
Like the DM has to be able to like help bridge that gap too, and make sure that everybody's going cohesively. And maybe even in the players need to like work on like, okay, like you're feeling like this, maybe instead of sending a paragraph about how you're a main character, maybe we can talk about it, like, or stuff like that.
Definitely it seems like some mediation needs to happen. Like if you're gonna stay with this group, which I would say maybe don't. It sounds like a lot's going on that is not super fun for you. And also I think the thing that really like kind of like makes my heart hurt for Saul is them saying like, I've had situations in the past where a character death like really causes me to break down. Like and that's totally valid. Like, it's totally fine to be like, I don't want to play a game where my character dies. Admittedly, Curse of Strahd, I feel like, is one of the harder games to say, like, my character, I don't want them to die.
So, the only Curse of Strahd game I played, and Taylor was here for it.
I was watching,
My character died in the first session. Our first fight, my character died, and I was sobbing because I didn't even get to finish her character arc.
And she died?
She died because there were 8 wolves that we had to fight again.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I like turned on the stream. I like turned on the stream and it was like, I think like right before your character got downed. I was like, oh wow.
I loved my next character, so it wasn't too bad. Like, I had a really good second character, but, like, it was a rough start to a campaign.
Oh my god, I just don't even know what I would say.
it was hard. And then I was like, should I even keep playing? And then like eventually like
No.
I was convinced like, no, you have to keep playing. That is not because it was multi.
Yeah.
Like, so but my second character was actually pretty good. But yeah, no, that's a hard one.
Did you take the next session off when your character died, or did you jump in the next session with a new character?
No, I had to jump in the next session.
Wow!
We had
No
some-
break in between.
We had some time between, like a week or two, but I had like a day or two to mourn, and then like I was very much encouraged, like, hey, maybe you should do that. And I didn't jump in like right at the beginning of the session. Like they did some stuff and they like mourn and whatever.
Buried your
Was your
first
character the only one that died?
Yes.
Oh my god!
I was playing a blood hunter Leonin, which is like a lion lady.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I got surrounded by wolves and immediately perished. But after that, I made a paladin that I love to this day. So it probably was for the best. I think my paladin fit the campaign better, anyways. And that's the hard part, is like realizing that maybe even as traumatic or like as like sad as it is, maybe like you can make a character that's gonna be a better fit, and maybe it was for the best.
And it's a good, I mean, it's a good story. Like, now that you have like some distance from it being like, oh yeah, my character died before I could finish their art.
It is a good story. It is a really good story.
Session 1, I was first time playing a like blood hunter. I was so excited for this new class, and it was like,
wow. Dead. I actually considered playing a paladin in my Baldur's Gate game, which I have not gone far in, let me just say. And one of my friends said, I would have loved to see you play paladin because you would have been immediately an oath breaker.
Yeah. Well, especially and I was like, in Baldur's Gate. True. It's so easy to break your oath in Baldur's Gate for some reason.
Yeah,
like,
I've heard. I have
left and right.
I don't have. I haven't played Baldur's Gate yet. I think Mike and I are gonna get it and play multiplayer maybe like this week. I'm like, really excited for it. But I feel like some of that stuff is based more on like older, because like paladins, there used to be more mechanical like things with the oath where you could like break it really easily, and like paladins had to be lawful good. So I feel like the Baldur's Gate thing is more of like that sort of idea of a paladin, whereas now in D&D it's like kind of different.
People have chosen the wrong dialogue option and then got an oathbreaker. Like
I hate
it's like wild, like that you can break your oath that easily.
my
that
oath
is hilarious.
To never be angry.
Like, god damn, you're like, maybe you shouldn't kill that child's like oathbreaker. And it's like, what the fuck?
Oh my god.
Oh man, that makes me excited to play.
I kind of love that shit though. That's so funny.
I will say one more comment. In that like with like not the whole thing with like the players and stuff like that, because like Dreamy mentioned like in our Fate campaign that she is very much like different opinions than some of the people in the party, but I think that brings like a good light to it too. And then it's like how we work together for that. Like I know myself, I need to work on more on like letting other players make decisions, even if they're more chaotic.
I'm the only crazy one in the campaign. Everyone else is so normal.
You also
Iris is starting to go that way.
You have a pretty big group of players too, which I feel like once you get past like 4 players, it's going to be so much more conflict, because you just have like, how many people are in your game? Like 6 or 7, right?
I think there's
6. 6. Right?
There's 5 player characters, isn't there?
No, there's 6 of us, aren't there?
Is there?
Maybe.
There's so many we can't remember.
I think that's 5, unless I'm
maybe I'm
okay. There's me, you, Stelia.
Oh, yeah, there's 6. Never mind.
Iris, Yuzuki, Aqua. There's 6 of us.
Okay, yeah. I think with 6 players, that's like to me the most I would have at a table. Most of the time my table's like 4 to 5. And I think like, you know, even just having that one extra person, it's like now you have so many more like people's opinions on like what should be happening. So I think that makes sense.
I'm starting to move that way, because I once played in a game that I think like at 8, and that was like terrible. So
there's
now
just no room for anyone to do anything, I feel like.
Now that if like people are like, oh, I'm gonna have a campaign and it's more than 5 people, I'm like, nah, I'm good. And I can't deal that.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah, so I feel like our our idea is that this person is not the asshole. It doesn't sound like you're the asshole. It does sound like we'll add to the chorus of people telling you that maybe you need a new table.
You should definitely leave.
Yeah, and I think you could find a different table. I think
I'm a huge advocate, I should say, for if you are not having fun, just leave. Just leave.
Hit the bricks.
I mean, I even told our DM, like in the Fate D&D campaign, I should have told Multi, I was like, if I'm not having fun, I'll just leave.
That's fair. Because it's supposed to be fun. Like, obviously a streamed game is, like, a little bit different because there's, like, you know, you're putting on a performance for people, so maybe it's not as fun as a home game sometimes. But, like, still, it's still a game.
Yeah.
If you're not having fun consistently, then maybe you should.
I would give that to Multi. He'll try and, like, talk with you about, like, what you want in the campaigns and, like, what you're looking for.
Yeah,
like a DM that actually talks to you.
And there's an MIA after.
How dare he talks to us?
Turn off your computer.
Talk to us. Yeah.
As soon as the game ends, I turn off my computer and I throw my phone into a block of ice.
So weird. That's like a teacher that has no office hours. It's like, okay, best of luck, you're on your own. Like, what the fuck?
That's so wild. Especially because they're playing text based. Like, they're not playing like on camera voice call. They're doing text RP.
That is crazy to me.
On call is so hard as it is. Like, to make sure you're not over one another. I cannot imagine like everybody texting like at the same time. Like, can you imagine Dreamy is typing? Okay, Captain Freestar is typing. Like, how do you take turns?
Everyone is typing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I've never played a text-based game. I don't know if I would have the constitution for it, but I think that's not super hard to find.
Yeah, can you roll a constitution check?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Let me roll a constitution check.
Grab your dice.
I got a nat 1.
Oh.
I don't have the constitution for this.
Well, everybody, it was a good stream.
Yeah, we tried.
So it's funny that you mentioned Baldur's Gate because I do have another story. This is another one from r/D&D.
Okay.
This is the wildest DM ruling I have ever heard of.
Oh, boy.
And it does kind of tie into Baldur's Gate.
I'm a little scared.
Yeah. So the title for this one is My DM thinks turn-based combat isn't just a game mechanic, but something we actually do.
No.
So this is what? Yeah. It's kind of like a weird thing to wrap your head around, but it'll make sense once I read the story. So obviously in game turn-based combat is the only way to do things. If we didn't, we'd be screaming over each other like wild animals. So this is the person saying like, obviously once we get into combat, things are in initiative order because otherwise everyone's trying to do everything at once.
Yeah.
During a time-sensitive mission, the DM described a golem boarding a location that I wanted to enter. Oh, I think it's supposed to say guarding, but it says boarding. Guarding a location I wanted to enter. I split off from my party members, as my character often did, to breach the area. Don't worry, my party has a sending stone with my name on it. We knew the dungeon would begin to crumble when we took its treasure, so the party said they'd contact me when the process began. So the player goes off, they have a sending stone, which is like walkie-talkie, basically, and says, like, I'm going to do this other thing. Let me know when this thing starts to crumble. I'll come back and join you. Insert a fight with a golem guarding a poison-filled stockpile I wanted to enter. The party messaged me before I was done and said the 10-minute timer had begun. Perfect. I have a scroll of Dimension Door, and this felt worth wasting it on. I was going to wait until the very last second. Well, the golem was described as getting weaker, and because its attacks rely on poison to which I was immune, the fight wasn't going well for him, so he decided on his turn he was going to do nothing. I laughed and began describing my turn because doing nothing means he's turn skipping. The DM stopped me and began laughing as the golem described that as long as he doesn't move, they're both stuck there as he doesn't plan on ending his turn.
You can't do that.
That's not how that works, my dude. It's not a time stop spell, my dude. What the fuck?
I asked what the canonical reason for me just sitting there and letting this happen is. The DM said combat is turn-based. You can escape outside of your turn. And said that this was the true trap of the golem, then just moved on. I was confused about what was... Just imagine the DM being like, this is the true trap of the golem.
Meta bullshit is this?
I don't even know, like, what the crap is going on.
Breaking as like this omniscient, like, fucking golem that knows he's in a game. Like, what?
Yes, yeah.
I was confused about what was going on as the DM described before I could contest the temple falling apart. I rolled death saves, a nat 1 and a 7. I was just dead. Because apparently, this is like Pokemon. According to the DM, Mayanti Poisoner is a polite little gentleman, taking his kindly patience and waiting for the golem he planned on killing then robbing to take his turn, being openly told he doesn't plan on doing anything, and still just standing there and waiting. That's the wildest interpretation of the rules I've ever heard for D&D.
That is so stupid. I would just straight up, I would leave. I would walk out. I'd be like, okay, well, if I can't do anything, I'm just gonna like leave now. And I would straight up leave.
It like, each round of combat is 6 seconds. It is not just like, actually, each round of combat is 6 seconds. So you only got 6 seconds to do nothing. It doesn't time stop. If it time stops for your fucking 6 seconds, then it stops for the crumbling temple. Like,
right? Yeah, that's the other thing. One of the comments mentions that making death saves is something you do on your turn. So if your turn doesn't happen, then you don't make them. So by this GM's logic, even. Yeah, like, you never got your turn, and so you can't make death saves, so you're just stuck there. Like, and also, like, how is the temple crumbling? Like, there's so many... The true trap. The true trap of the golem.
That is wild.
I would grab my copy of the player's handbook, grab my copy of the DM's handbook, and then slap him with it.
Yeah, just like a cartoon, like bonk on the top of the head. Hey, this isn't how this game works. People in the comments also mentioned Baldur's Gate because they're like, it's not Baldur's Gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Focus on me, please.
Oh my god, that's so embarrassing.
And that's a ruling. And then I say, like, on the time that he's taking turns and he can't move. And then my friends are going to come in and stab him in the back because he's locked in a dialogue combat tree, so he can't, like, react.
Right.
That's what that's what I did in Baldur's Gate. I just, like, piled fire barrels around one of the monsters. I, like, got him in a conversation, and then, like, the person I was playing with just grabbed a bunch of, like, fire barrels and put him around it, and then we just blew him up.
That's so funny. Mila says, I think this may be more infuriating than the 100 floors of porn. Yeah, what do you think is a more egregious overstepping of player agency? The time stop DM or the 100 floors of porn storyteller? Which one of those do you think is...
Nothing's gonna top the 100 stories of porn because at least I die. At least I perish.
Yeah, you're free.
To, like, I'm free. I may be dead, but I'm free, and I can find a better campaign. I'm not free with the 100 floors of porn. Like, I am stuck there. Like,
that is very true.
Imagine it's like, oh, you reach floor 75, but they refuse to end their turn, so you're gonna have to watch them have for the next hour and a half.
You have to watch them 69. And you like it, God. By the way.
Mm-hmm. And then your boner kills you.
Yeah, you've heard of a boner killer, but this is, this is ridiculous. This is a different kind of boner killer. A boner that kills you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Have any of you ever had a situation with a game where, like, either another player or DM or something like has such a wild interpretation of the rules that you're like, this can't possibly be what's intended by this?
I've never been in a game where that happened, luckily. Thank goodness, right?
Not really. Like, I played in a lot of homebrew campaigns, so like
Mm-hmm.
rules get kind of like altered. But for the most part, they stay pretty grounded. So I've never had that like fucking hold their turn. God, I cannot imagine.
I have had before because I feel like I don't so I have a home game of D&D, but I don't run like a ton of D&D anymore. Like I don't play it on stream. And so I haven't had this as much, but like in I run a home game of D&D, and then I'm in a couple of home games of D&D that meet like a little less frequently. The main thing that I've had happen is I feel like me as a DM, I do pretty much go by rules as written. Like sometimes I'll like, if somebody does something that's not exactly fitting in the rules, like we'll make it work or whatever. But like I don't really do a lot of homebrew stuff. Like I think the biggest thing for me is that when I'm DMing a game, for ability checks, nat 1s and nat 20s are not critical hits or misses. Like it's because that's rules as written. It's
that's a rules as written thing, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like one of the main things where I've been in other games where DMs are so used to running like maybe have never even read the Dungeon Master's Guide and just kind of absorbed the rules, by being in games and stuff like that. So there have been times where I've been like, as a player, been following like rules as written, like, okay, I'm setting up like this move or whatever. And it is always like a little bit frustrating where like sometimes I'll be like, okay, so I'm setting up this spell so that I can like have advantage, and then I'm doing this other thing so that this happens. And then the last thing I do in combat, then the GM say like, that's not how that spell works, or I have this homebrew thing that like does this other thing that messes up everything that you just did. And like, in my mind, sometimes I'm like, which is only really annoying if it's like multiple turns, because sometimes like I think especially like I played a warlock where it was like I had to cast a certain spell on myself, and then the next turn I wanted to like use it to do a certain thing. I don't remember all the details, but like I always feel like I don't want to be like a rules lawyer and be like, actually, blah, blah, blah. But like, if it's my own character, sometimes I'm like, well, the rules say that like, this is what this thing does. Like, is it okay if I do it? So that's like the only frustrating, and that's not even that bad, but that happens sometimes. But yeah, I've never had anything as egregious as that.
Outside rules are written, I have told like multi for DMing before, if you're gonna have a character look cool, do not roll, because he's had too many instances where he comes like with someone that like comes in to try and be cool, or like it's like a story beat, right? Like someone coming in to save you. This happened in Curse of Strahd too.
Yeah.
Where there was a raven that was supposed to save us, right? But this raven rolled a nat 1, ended up thrown on the floor and lightning bolt to death, and didn't even do anything.
Oh my god!
So many times where he's had like people come and save us, they roll terrible, they look like fools, and they've never been able to recover. So like we have this rule where it's like, if you're having someone come in to look cool and help us out and help the players out, not in a cool way, like I'm going to do everything for you, but like, it's just a story beat, right? Like this is an unwinnable situation.
Oh my gosh.
But like, I'm like, do not roll. Just have it come in, do his cool shit, and then get us out.
Yeah, that is why I like games like that use Powered by the Apocalypse, because the GM in those games doesn't roll for anything. Like you react to other people's rolls, and like that can be kind of hard to get a feeling for, because sometimes when you're GMing, it's like, oh, it feels weird that I can just like do stuff, and like there's no, so you have to kind of get a feel for like what the players like, and what, because obviously you don't have a character just come in and be like, I'm cool and like none of you matter and I'm just doing the whole story. Like you don't want that. But I do like games where the DM doesn't have to roll to avoid things like that. Where
like,
oh my god,
the Apocalypse games, you have to be strong at role playing to like really play them.
Don't invite that one person's dad.
I know, right?
Yeah, he would not like that.
But
Some
like,
Powered by the Apocalypse games, there's no combat at all.
Yeah. DM and player wise, you have to be strong in role playing because you have to just think of things on the fly rather than like doing what's described to you or you doing mechanics.
Yeah. It's nice, though. I think games like that are fun because the combat can be a lot more like if there is fighting, it can be a lot more cinematic or a lot more like storytelling, because instead of being like, okay, every single round, like there's a round of combat and I'm rolling to hit and then like a hit is one punch or whatever. In Powered by the Apocalypse games, like for example, I run Monster Hearts a lot, and in that game there's like a role that's called Lash Out Physically. And a one Lash Out Physically role could be the entire scene. Like that could be somebody like going ham and like beating the shit out of somebody. That could be one role and they just succeed really well or fail really. If you fail by a lot, you could also be like, I beat the shit out of someone I shouldn't beat the shit out of.
Yeah, it's like more fun to fail on those things.
Yeah.
Like, that's the hard part about D&D is you have to really remember to like flavor your stuff. Because it's so easy just to fall into the trap of like, okay, I hit, I roll the hit, I hit, okay, bye. Like, it's trying to remember like, okay, I'm going to describe how I hit. So it's a little bit more of a like, not spending too long doing it, that it's taking up all the time, but just more so like, okay, I'm going to say I'm like this. Oh, it misses. Oh, I missed my sword by this, or it glances off his armor. Just trying to like get a little bit more flavor, you know?
Yeah, I think that's really tough, especially like if you are playing with someone like the dad from earlier, where they're like, "Come on, hurry up! I want it to be my turn," because like. When I first was running D&D, I was like, combat takes forever, so I'm going to try to make it go as quickly as possible. So not describing as much stuff, like moving on, just because turns take so long. But then as I've been DMing more, now I kind of am like, combat's going to take forever regardless, even if we are rushing, it's going to take forever. So having it be a little bit more narrative where there can be like I used to be like, you can't really have a conversation in combat because rounds are like 6 seconds. But now I'm like, no, feel on your turn, you can have a conversation with this person, or you can call out to your allies, and like kind of being like, I don't really care if it's supposed to be 6 seconds, like, and having it be more like in an action movie where like maybe in the middle of the fight, 2 players go back to back and like start talking about what their plan is or whatever.
Yes.
Because then, even though combat takes longer, I feel like it doesn't feel like it's taking as long because you're not having to wait until it's your turn to do anything. Like, you can still try to do other things.
And
or
you're
like
cheering each other on and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's more like stakes of what's going on. Like, you can taunt each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love taunting people.
Yeah. A piece of advice that I've heard, like when it comes to running a D&D game, is if you're going to have a combat, especially if you have a larger group or whatever, that whole session has to be combat. Like, well, not has to be, but should be combat. Like, don't try and be like, do a whole, like a majority of the session, like role play, and then try and squeeze combat at the end, or do like that. So if you separate it out like that, like I know that there's going to be a fight this session, so then that probably should be the focus of the session. And not try to squeeze it in at the end. So like if you're doing a lot of role play and it's getting close to the end, it's like, we'll save combat for the next time. Because there's nothing weirder than like leaving in the middle of combat.
I know, which sometimes I've had to do. Yeah.
quick BRB, guys.
Okay.
You know, no. I meant in combat.
Oh yeah.
I thought you like had to go. I was like, all right.
No. We're just gonna freeze our turn, and then the temple's gonna collapse around us.
Yes.
Yeah. I have had to do that before in my home game of D&D, where like we'll start combat. Like our sessions are usually like 3-ish hours, and we'll start combat. And by the end of the 3 hours, the combat is not done yet. So, like, sometimes you do have to, like, be like, all right, I guess we're coming. Which, it's easier if you're playing online, because we play on Roll20. So then it's easier to remember, like, where everybody positioned and stuff like that. But, yeah, it takes a long time. And we're just about the time I wanted to end. I'm going to do one more really quick story.
No, go for it.
Just to wrap us up. Because
I have plenty of time, so no worries.
This one's pretty low stakes. I don't think there'll be a lot of conversation, but this one's also from our D&D, and the title is just "Am I Being Unreasonable?"
Oh boy.
The first sentence of this one is, "Cleric won't buy components. So this is revisiting something that I posted months ago. The cleric player dislikes having to shop. The party is on the final leg of the campaign. They all know that it is going to be tough. They just survived Avernus and Dis. One has returned broken. Well played, that player. Anyway, everyone is getting kitted out with healing potions and invisibility potions, etc. Everyone gave me a list of what they wanted. However, the cleric player says he doesn't see why he has to go through all the spells to find out what he needs. Now, I understand it's harder for clerics as they have everything to choose from. Wizard has his limited list. The wizard has bought everything he needs, if not freely given by me, the DM, because it's generic. But the cleric player refused to even check anything out. The other players tried to gently persuade him, to no avail. To keep him from feeling singled out and keep the campaign momentum, I said that he could tell me when the time comes what he wants to cast. If he has enough money equivalent to the value required for the spell component, he can have it. We'll assume he bought it. Is this fair? P.S. I'm talking about big components here, not feathers and sulfur, but diamonds and dragon bones, for example. Am I being unreasonable? P.S. Another P.S. This cleric also didn't have enough cure wounds spells when the party needed him most and cast it on himself. The ranger is keeping them all safe by buying a ton of potions.
I was about to say, that's a dreamy decision right there.
I think I did do something like that where I casted Shield of Faith on myself.
Yeah. I think it was funny because, like, you're like, I cast Shield of Faith, and Multi's like on Stelia because she was like the one that was in the middle of combat, and you're like, no, myself.
Yes. I did Shield of Faith myself.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be super honest. I hate component play. I always choose spell focus.
Yeah.
I refuse to do component play.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The thing that makes me kind of on the DM side for this one is that they specifically say they're only talking about, because like most people, even if they don't use spell components, will require like for Revivify, or I think it's Revivify, you have to have a diamond or whatever. So I think that's what they mean, is it's only spells that have consumables, and that the cleric is like, nope. Not doing it. But I agree with you. Like, if it was like, you have to go to the store and buy sulfur and bat guano and like all this different stuff, I would be on the player's side.
Yeah, I guess like if you like that kind of roleplay stuff, but like shopping episodes already take fucking forever. But to be like, does this shop have a handful of bat guano?
Oh my god, I would hate that. Personally, I would not.
Does it have a stick and stick? Like the comments are really funny. They're really funny, but like outside of that, it's like, oh, is there? I could see the cleric side of being like, do I have to find a jeweler and haggle for the price of a diamond? That must be like 300 equivalent, which is also weird because does that count for like inflation? Like,
I know, it's like you cast the spell and it's like, actually, this diamond's only worth 298 gold right now. The price of diamonds went down.
Like,
that's so much. That is so much.
Like, it has to be like a 300 GP equivalent for a diamond, right?
Yeah,
like, I guess
I think that's what it is.
Which is weird concept of like, so you don't just pick up like, I don't know, a small diamond from the ground. Like, I guess it's supposed to have some worth to it, but at the same time, like, if you're at a jeweler and you like charm or haggle the diamond or steal it, like for 5 gold, does that mean it no longer works for the sell? Like,
it also has
appraisal. Like, what?
It has so many implications for the world as well, because if you live in a world where a diamond of let's even take away that it's 300 gold, a diamond of a certain size or whatever will bring someone back to life. Wouldn't that also inflate the price of diamonds? Because people would be like, I'll do anything to get this diamond because it would bring my friend back to life.
Would it be in the world building where like, because diamonds are so needed for this? Well, no, because even if they're like, okay, we're going to do an extra hunt for diamonds and like make sure we have a stockpile of the clergy, then it'd be like, but they're all being used up because they get consumed in the spell. So like eventually the world's gonna run out of diamonds. Like,
yeah, it's not a renewable resource to a huge degree. Like, it takes a while for a diamond to form. Yeah, I think that's a wild piece of world building just for D&D, that it's like diamonds bring people back to. I think it's the spell that you have to do within like a turn or something like that, or it's a minute. Yeah.
you have 1 minute to bring someone back to life. So if you're not carrying a diamond on you,
Whoa.
like I've seen like fun world building where it's like, oh, you see a wedding ring and like, oh, I'm gonna use it as my component, like whatever. But like it's just like I get it's to bring stakes, right?
It's
like,
to bring stakes to it. I think the choice of it being a diamond is just funny. Like, I feel like, yeah, there's like other things that it could be. It's hard. Like, it's a hard thing to figure out what you should have it be that makes sense in the world.
So I could understand not wanting to shop for components, but like at the same, like I could understand like, oh, we want them to shop for components because these are like high level spells that they need. Like, because the spell focus only counts for things that don't have a like a cost component to it. But at the same time, I would also be like, I don't know if I want to haggle for a diamond. I don't know if I want to look at every drawer. Does this shop have dragon bones for a spell that, like, at that point, I'm just gonna unprepare the spell. I'm like, I have to find dragon bones every town we go to, and the fact that like a lot of the towns are like these small ass towns. You're like, oh, can I have a magic weapon? They're like, no, we're too small for that. But you have dragon bones? Oh god! Like,
well, they got some slayers in their town.
Yeah, they're constantly killing dragons. All the good weapons are being used by the people who are killing the dragons.
Oh my god!
That's why. The person writing this does say that everyone else gave them a list of what they wanted. So I'm kind of assuming that it's like not as much like whole shopping episodes. It's just like, give me a list of whatever you want. I'll tell you how much it is.
Yeah.
But that still can be kind of annoying, you know, depending on the situation. So,
and especially because you have to buy stuff in town, and like clerics can change their spells every day. So like, am I gonna really have to like look at my entire? I can see the cleric's point of being like, am I gonna have to look at the entirety of the spell list that I could ever learn ever?
Yeah,
and hope that like maybe I prayed that morning and had that spell prepared. Otherwise, I'm just like wasting money. Like it.
Yeah.
So I like the exchange of like, well, if you have that equivalent in money, then we can exchange that for the item or whatever. But like, it's not hard. Like, how do I know I'm gonna need like this fucking spell like 5 sessions from now when we're not in town? And
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think just saying like assume that you would have got it and spend the money is a fair solution. Someone else I think in the comments said something about like you could go through, because there's only a handful of spells that require like a cost component, so said like you could go through and find those spells for your cleric and just tell them the spells and like the cost, and so then they don't have to go through a whole thing, which would work
that would
too,
be easier too.
Yeah,
that'd be nice,
especially as you get to higher level. It's like, yeah, I never play components. It's one of the reasons why I refuse to play wizard, because I don't want to deal with the whole buy like gold to like buy special pen and ink. It's so stupid. Like, unless you have a DM that's really on top of everything, like I have to figure out if this shop has special paper and special ink and then 500 gold so that I can write a spell in my spell. No, it's too complicated. Smooth brain. I'll play.
That's too much.
I'll have my daddy's money tell me that I can like cast the spell or not.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's the last story we'll do for today. I have some other ones for future streams, because I was like, well, I want to make sure I have enough stories, but I definitely prepared enough. So no, it's good. I wanted to. I just want to make sure I had enough, because I was like, what if I read really quickly and then we don't talk about them at all? So this was perfect. Thank you both for being here. Before we leave, do you each want to let people know what other things you have going on, where people can find you, any like plug kind of stuff? And we'll start with Freestar this time.
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Captain Freestar. If you want more D&D content, I play in 0xP. I'm not in all of their campaigns, but I'm in the good majority of them. We have a lot of stuff coming up that's going to be a lot of fun. So check out, we like stream Tuesdays for like the other campaigns, and then Mondays or Thursdays we stream Fate. So you can see Dreamy there too.
That's true. If you want to see my freaky D characters.
I don't really have a set schedule for streaming, but I do variety streams on my channel on Captain Freestar and art, and that's me.
Yeah, Dreamy, what about you?
Okay. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter under this, and YouTube and TikTok and all that under my username Dreamyatude. It's the same on everything. I stream Thursday through Saturday, very late at night. So good luck catching me. Like I said earlier, I do a lot of Final Fantasy 14 content, but also some variety content. I am in the Fate D&D 0xP campaign, and that's been pretty fun. You can also sometimes catch me on Taylor's stream
Yeah.
as a guest sometimes.
Like today.
Right now.
Like right now
It's
if you're
always
watching
fun
this.
playing at Taylor's tables. They're always a good time.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually maybe the first tabletop RPG that I played on Taylor's stream was actually with Captain Freestar.
Yeah, the succulent sorcerer.
Yeah. And you know, even though we were plants, I still feel like my little succulent sorcerer was still a freaky deek.
Yeah, you were like a stripper.
Yeah. You were showing your roots
I was not
everywhere.
a stripper. I was a nudist. Okay, there's a difference.
I think at one point you did like
strip my clothes.
But you like slid down a pole or somple Like you did
I'm
something.
sure I did. Oh yes, I think I did. I was a naked plant. I never wanted to wear my pot.
The atrocity for young plants these days.
Yeah, so my plant was all naked. You could see all their roots and everything. And then I think I did slide down a pole. I think you're right.
Yeah, that is on my YouTube channel. That's one of the ones. I'm behind on VODs, but that one is from long enough ago that it is up. So if anybody wants to watch Tisha and Dreamy play Succulent Sorcerers, is super fun. And if you scroll through, you'll see both of them in different games because they've both been on a few times. And yeah, speaking of games, I haven't been streaming as much this month. I plan to do more solo streams in January, but right now I'm GMing a game of Monster Hearts on Girls Run These Worlds. That's on Tuesdays. So those streams Tuesdays from 4 to 7 p.m. I'm producing and guest starring in a Vampire the Masquerade game on Take Your Roll. That's Wednesdays from 8 to like 11:30 midnight. This is Eastern time. And then I'm also playing in a Thirsty Sword Lesbians campaign that's on Entropy Emporium. That's on Fridays from 8 to also like 11 p.m. So I've been a little bit preoccupied with those being on so many streams. But I'm hoping to, and then I also have like a couple home games that I'm running. But I'm hoping to come back to streaming more on here. I'm going to do at least one of these over the table streams a month. So February, look out for the announcement for that and submit your games. And then also February and March, I'm already planning my one-shot streams for those months. And I'm going to be back on here with more video game streams. I'm going to play some Minecraft. I'm going to play probably some Fallout, some Witcher 3 probably. So different stuff like that I'll be playing. So you can check that out. But I think that's everything that we have to say. So I think it's time for us to say goodbye. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank everyone for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And thanks you two for guesting. This was super fun. And you had great reactions to all the stories, and Dreamy, your head was just constantly being petted.
I keep accidentally clicking the button. I don't know which one it is, so I like do not know. I can't even like be like, oh, what am I pressing? I don't know.
You need to look at your keybinds. All right. We will see you all next month. Well, not all three of us. It'll probably be different people, but we'll see you around, all of us. And everyone have a great day, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah,
bye everybody.
Bye.